In the year 1644, the once mighty Ming Dynasty stood on the brink of collapse. For nearly 3 centuries, the Ming had ruled China with splendor and power, but now corruption, famine, and rebellion threatened to tear the empire apart. At the center of this chaos stood an unlikely figure, a former postal worker named Li Zicheng. To understand how a postal worker could challenge an emperor, we must first examine the Ming Dynasty at its height. Founded in 1368, after overthrowing the Mongol Yuan dynasty, the Ming established Beijing as its capital and built the magnificent Forbidden City. Under emperors like Yongle, China experienced a golden age of culture and exploration. But by the early 17th century, the dynasty was showing serious cracks. Emperor Wanli's 48-year reign had ended with the treasury depleted and corruption rampant. His successors were weak or incompetent, while powerful eunuchs and officials fought for control. The imperial court had become disconnected from the suffering of ordinary people. Natural disasters compounded these political problems. The Little Ice Age brought colder temperatures and failed harvests across northern China. Famine spread through provinces like Shanxi and Henan, where millions faced starvation. Meanwhile, rising taxes to fund military campaigns against the Manchus further burdened peasants. Into this desperate situation was born Li Zicheng around 1606 in Mijai County, Shanxi Province. Little is known about his early life, but he likely came from a peasant family struggling with the economic hardships of the time. As a young man, he found work in the government postal system, a seemingly stable position that would soon disappear. In 1629, the financially strapped Ming government made a fateful decision. They would cut costs by eliminating thousands of postal jobs. Li Zicheng found himself unemployed and desperate. With no income and famine spreading, he joined a growing wave of banditry that was sweeping through northwestern China. Li didn't start as a leader, but as a follower. He joined the rebel band of Gao Yingxiang, who had taken the title Chuang Wang, or Dashing King. Under Gao's command, Li learned military tactics and gained experience fighting Ming forces. The rebels employed guerrilla warfare, avoiding direct confrontation with superior imperial troops. In 1636, Gao Yingxiang was captured and executed by Ming forces. Leadership of the rebel army fell to Li Zicheng, who adopted his mentor's title of Chuang Wang. Unlike many rebel leaders who sought only plunder, Li began to articulate a vision. He would overthrow the corrupt Ming and establish a new, just government. Li proved to be a charismatic and capable commander. He implemented strict discipline among his troops, forbidding looting and violence against civilians in territories he controlled. He also promoted talented officers regardless of their background, earning loyalty from his diverse following of peasants, soldiers, and former officials. Meanwhile, the Ming faced threats on multiple fronts. In the northeast, the Manchu tribes under leaders like Narhasai and Hang Teji were building a powerful state that regularly raided beyond the Great Wall. The Ming had to divide their forces between fighting rebels like Li and defending against the Manchus. The Ming response was hampered by internal divisions. Emperor Changzhen, who had ascended in 1627, was diligent but suspicious and indecisive. He executed capable generals like Yuan Changhuan on suspicion of treason, further weakening the military. Eunuchs and officials often withheld information or gave bad advice. By 1640, Li's forces had grown to over 100,000 fighters. They controlled large parts of Henan province and began besieging major cities. Li adopted a clever propaganda strategy, circulating songs and slogans that promised equal land distribution and an end to oppressive taxes. Peasants increasingly saw him as a liberator. In 1641, Li achieved a major victory at the Battle of Luoyang. He captured and executed the Ming prince Zhu Changsun, seizing his vast wealth to fund the rebellion. More importantly, he gained control of a strategic region and demonstrated he could defeat major Ming forces. His confidence and ambition grew. The following year brought both triumph and tragedy. Li's forces captured Xiangyang, a key fortress on the Han River, but he also suffered a devastating defeat at the hands of Ming general Sun Quanting, who nearly destroyed the rebel army. Li was forced to retreat with only a few hundred followers. Remarkably, Li rebuilt his army within months. Peasants continued to flock to his banner, disillusioned with Ming rule. He also gained defectors from the Ming military, including experienced officers. By 1643, he controlled much of Hubei and Henan provinces and declared the establishment of the Shun Dynasty. In early 1644, Li made his decisive move toward Beijing. His army, now numbering over 200,000, marched north virtually unopposed. Ming defenses had collapsed, with soldiers deserting or joining the rebels. City after city surrendered without fighting, opening their gates to the dashing king. In Beijing, Emperor Changzhen faced impossible choices. His treasury was empty, his troops demoralized, and his advisors divided. He reportedly considered fleeing south to Nanjing, where Ming loyalists still held power, but decided to remain in the capital. The dynasty founded by a peasant rebel was now threatened by one. On April 24, 1644, Li's army reached Beijing. The city's defenses, including the massive walls and gates, should have held for months. But a eunuch named Cao Huachun opened the Zhangyi Gate, allowing rebels to flood into the city. The Ming capital fell in a single day. As rebels approached the Forbidden City, Emperor Changzhen made his final, tragic decisions. He forced his empress to commit suicide, killed several concubines and daughters, then fled to Prospect Hill behind the palace. There, as dawn broke on April 25, he hanged himself from a tree, ending 276 years of Ming rule. Li Zicheng entered the Forbidden City in triumph. The former postal worker now sat on the dragon throne, declaring himself emperor of the new Shun Dynasty. He issued proclamations of a new era of justice and distributed grain to Beijing's starving population. For a brief moment, it seemed his revolution had succeeded. But Li's triumph would be shockingly short-lived. He made critical errors in his first days as ruler. Instead of consolidating power and winning over Ming officials, he allowed his troops to loot and torture wealthy citizens for hidden wealth. This alienated the scholar official class, whose support he desperately needed. Worse still, Li failed to secure the loyalty of Wu Sangui, the Ming general guarding Shanhai Pass at the Great Wall. Wu commanded 40,000 battle-hardened troops who could defend against the Manchus. When Li executed Wu's father and seized his concubine Chen Yuanyuan, he made a mortal enemy. Wu Sangui faced an impossible choice: submit to Li, who had killed his father, or join the Manchus, who were China's traditional enemies. He chose the latter, opening Shanhai Pass to the Manchu armies under Prince Dorgan. The Manchus, who had been waiting for such an opportunity, poured into northern China. Li marched north to confront this new threat. On May 27, 1644, the two armies met at the Battle of Shanhai Pass. Li's rebels, though numerous, were exhausted from marching and lacked the discipline of the combined Ming-Manchu forces. After initial success, they were routed by the Manchu cavalry. The defeat was catastrophic. Li fled back to Beijing, but his authority had evaporated. After only 42 days as emperor, he abandoned the capital, taking what loot he could carry. The Manchus entered Beijing on June 5, where they would establish the Qing dynasty that would rule China for 268 years. Li's story didn't end in Beijing. He retreated westward, trying to regroup, but his support had collapsed. Former allies turned against him, and his remaining forces dwindled through desertion and defeat. The man who had nearly conquered China was now a fugitive in the land he briefly ruled. In 1645, Li's remaining forces were cornered in Hubei province. According to most accounts, he was killed by local militia while scouting for food. Other theories suggest he survived and became a monk, but the likely truth is that the former postal worker turned emperor died as he had lived much of his life on the run. Li Zicheng's rebellion succeeded in toppling the Ming Dynasty, but failed to establish a lasting regime. His rise demonstrated how corruption, inequality, and natural disaster could undermine even powerful dynasties. His fall showed that military victory alone wasn't enough. Governing required different skills. The true beneficiaries were the Manchus, who skillfully exploited the chaos. They presented themselves as restorers of order rather than foreign conquerors, adopting Chinese administrative systems while maintaining their military dominance. The Qing dynasty would become one of China's most successful. Li's legacy is complex in Chinese history. Traditional historians often portrayed him as a bandit and usurper, but modern perspectives recognize him as a product of his time, a man who rose from poverty to challenge an unjust system, even if he ultimately lacked the vision to replace it with something better. The fall of the Ming reveals patterns seen throughout Chinese history. Dynasties rise on promises of reform, become corrupt and disconnected, then fall to internal rebellion, often coupled with external threat. The mandate of heaven, the divine right to rule, could be lost as quickly as it was gained. Li Zicheng's story also reminds us that history is shaped by ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. A postal worker, a dismissed soldier, a starving peasant, these were the human forces that brought down an empire. Their choices, for better or worse, redirected the course of a civilization. Today, we can visit sites connected to this dramatic history. The Forbidden City, where both Ming and Qing emperors ruled, the Great Wall, where Wu Sangui made his fateful decision, and museums holding artifacts from this turbulent period. Each tells part of this epic story. The fall of the Ming and rise of the Qing marked a pivotal transition in Chinese history. It demonstrated the fragility of power, the importance of competent governance, and the unpredictable ways that individuals can shape destiny. From postal worker to emperor to fugitive, Li Zicheng's journey encapsulates these truths. What lessons does this story hold for us today? Perhaps that institutions must maintain connection with those they serve, that talent can emerge from unexpected places, and that victory is meaningless without the wisdom to build something lasting. The echoes of 1644 still resonate in how we understand power and change.